It is exactly 9:40 a.m., our final interview of the morning right here on News and Views on Salam Media. I'm Julie Ali, standing in for Salilo Makodiri. He will be back with you on Monday. We're looking at a very troubling story now. It impacts on you and I in a very, very big way, and it has to do with Eskom. Eskom's profits have surged despite falling sales, simply because tariff hikes have hammered you and I as consumers. Let's talk with Zakhele Madela, Executive Director of the South African Energy Forum. A very good morning to you. Welcome to the program. And you've heard my introduction. Painful, I might add, to us as consumers. Why is this allowed? Why is government allowing this to happen? It shouldn't happen. If their profits are surging through the roof, why do we have energy increases from time to time, and massive increases at that? Welcome. Good morning.
Good morning to you, Julie. How are you?
I'm very well indeed, but I must say this is a painful interview.
Well, not really. I think to answer the question, we need to sensitize South Africans. We need to protect what belongs to us, even though sometimes it gets hijacked by the vultures. Eskom is all of us company. It's all of us. If we don't look after it, we have nothing. And we cannot surrender the country to the private players, because private players are driven by profit. So the opening statement that Eskom is asking for increases while their profits are surging up is a little bit misplaced, because there is a formula that all the players in the energy generation space are allowed to use. And Eskom is at the bottom, the rest are at the top. They're making much, much more money than Eskom. So when in the eyes of people, Eskom reports a profit of 20-something billion rand, say 22 billion rand, they have to understand, first of all, Eskom is not allowed to make astronomical profits. In fact, getting that money as profit is a little bit misplaced. It's money for continued operation. In other words, they're going to have to take that money and use it for upgrades and use it for new investment. There is no money that they pay to the government as profit. I don't know if you get what I mean.
Now, I hear you. I hear you loudly and clearly, which means that this headline is a bit misleading, obviously. But having said that, Zakhele, we are, well, according to the figures that I have here at hand, it says that the National Power Utility Eskom has presented an update for the third quarter of its financial year, pointing to a second consecutive year of profits despite selling less electricity. And according to the group, the year-to-date revenue March to December 2025 hit 273.7 billion rand, up 3.4% year on year. Now, that's a massive increase, even though 3.4 doesn't sound like much. Will these funds, like you rightly say, will these funds then go to upgrade, and maintain ailing infrastructure, perhaps building new power plants, etc., so that we can always be in a position of power, excuse the pun, in a position of power to supply affordable energy and electricity to the country?
Yes, those funds would have been used for that if that was correct in the first place. Again, we are living in a country where people are being taken advantage of being naive. That whole statement is misleading because it talks about the group revenue. In the revenue, you have to subtract your cost. You have to pay salaries. You have to honor contracts. You have to budget for for input costs, you have to budget for insurance, you have to budget for many, many things. You have to pay your staff. Why is this author of this article talking about that money and not talking about the input cost? Because when you do that, easy, Eskom gross profit, not net profit, gross profit, comes down to 21, 22. And in the gross profit, remember the 254 billion rand that Eskom bailout that it was given, which means they took that money and plugged it elsewhere instead of going to the market to borrow. So that money, if it had to be paid back, Eskom will be on a negative. I'm not trying to say that Eskom made a profit because of the bailout. I'm saying they've gotten a relief. But to report the gross revenue and leave it like that is completely irresponsible, because if I ask you now, how much are the IPPs? The IPPs are making trillions. You have to compare the 296 billion rand to the trillions that are being made. You have to look at Sasol. If you report the gross revenue of Sasol and you're not reporting their expenses and everything, you're going to mislead the public. Eskom is not in the business of making big money. They are not making any money.
Okay, so Zakhele, Eskom noted that its revenue growth is mainly being driven by tariff increases. This, despite the fact that their electricity sales have dropped. So, number one, is the drop in electricity sales due to the private sector, the independent power providers? Are they the reason for this happening?
Okay.
And where and how does people who have, and of course this is people who can afford it, people that have gone the solar route, that too I should imagine in a small way is impacting on Eskom. So why should they increase their why should they increase their tariffs? Because we know that the majority of the people that purchase energy is via Eskom, and these are your ordinary working class people. Why are they increasing? Should they not keep their tariffs low just so that they make electricity more affordable to the poorest of the poor?
Well, first of all, that increase in revenue is not, strictly speaking, because of the increase in tariffs. It's simply because Eskom produces much cheaper power compared to the rest. Eskom on average sells electricity for R1.58 a kilowatt hour. The next guy, very next guy that sells the electricity, which is the private producers, they're selling at over R2.20 per kilowatt hour. So it's not true that that increase is simply because they squeeze the money out of the consumers. They have to adjust according to the inflation and adjust according to their own programs. Yes, they are selling less electricity. They are not selling less electricity because the private players have come up with rooftop solar and come up with IPPs. No, they're selling less electricity because ArcelorMittal is closed, because the smelters are closed, over 20 smelters in the country, because there is no suppress. We are importing fuel. There is no engine, because the mining industry is not reinvesting. The coal mines are closing down. Every major energy user is closing down. And therefore, that's the reason why Eskom is selling this. And if people want to contextualize this, you must ask yourself, why is it that the 23 smelters, for them to go back to business, it has to be Eskom that provides the solution, not the IPPs? If Eskom is, let me quickly finish this. If Eskom is expensive, why go to the expensive Eskom and not go to the IPP? It's simply because the IPPs and the private players cannot produce the electricity cheaper than Eskom. And that's the reason why they have to go. If ArcelorMittal is one of the reasons they are closing down is because the electricity is expensive, why are private players not provide? Mozambique has been solely relying on Eskom. The minute Eskom says, I do want to charge you the bare minimum to recover my cost, but the smelter had to close down because the private players are unable to supply the energy at the cost that Eskom is supplying.
Okay, I do know, and I've heard this from, I've heard this over time, that electricity in South Africa is about the cheapest in the world. That I have heard from time to time. We'll come back to that. We'll come back to the closure of coal mines. We'll come back to the impact of the smelter closures as well. In a minute or two, we need to take an ad break. Will you please stand by for us?
Rejuvenating media day by day. This is Salam Media.
Discover the Africa of your dreams and surround yourself with her spectacular beauty. Relax beneath her serene sunsets and explore wildlife at its natural best. It's where the pride of Africa comes together. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve. Get to know the Big Five or cruise on an elephant safari game drive. Interact with lion and tiger cubs and enjoy world-class halal cuisine while we pamper you during your 5-star stay. Indulge in the true African experience. For reservations, call now on 042-203-1400 or visit kwantu.co.za. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve, the place of gathering.
Shimmer, sparkle, captivate. Nothing less than a masterpiece. Droplets of gold inspires precious design. Platinum bursts with intricate freshness, and every pure diamond becomes more than just a girl's best friend. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, where timeless dreams become a reality. Come to us. We tailor-make designer gold, platinum, and diamond jewelry. Trade in or remodel your old gold. Clad yourself with classy name-branded watches. We offer insurance valuation and freezer card calculation. Visit us at 534 Ridge Road, Overport, or call 031-208-9142. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, manufacturers of fine gold and diamond jewelry.
When the perfect blend of stylish decor, exquisite halal cuisine, and warm hospitality come together, it could only mean Albeit Lodge, your true home away from home. Albeit is the ideal heaven for families, business people, and tourists with its 4-star family rooms and other luxurious facilities, conveniently situated close to Port Elizabeth Airport, the beach, and other amenities. Your stay will be truly unforgettable, as you'll be taking home lasting memories of the warm hospitality, the serenity and tranquility that Albeit has to offer. For reservations, call 041-583-6415 or visit www.albeitlodge.co.za.
Searching for elite local and international investment and advisory services from an award-winning firm? Look no further than the Belmont Meyer Group, your gateway to unparalleled investment and wealth management. At Belmont Meyer, we believe in the art of wealth creation, a meticulous process fueled by our unwavering commitment to excellence. With a focus on providing elite alternative investments and quality advice, we also pride ourselves on maximizing value for our esteemed investors, as seen through our consistent outperformance. Your financial success is our top priority. Join us at Belmont Meyer and experience the difference firsthand. Ready to embark on a journey of greatness? Contact us today. Reach out to the Belmont Meyer Group on 078-786-1698. Call or WhatsApp or email us at info@belmontmeyer.com. Elevate your financial future with Belmont Meyer, where every detail matters.
Connect and stay ahead with Salam Media. This is Salam Media, coming to you live from South Africa.
Welcome back. It's 9:54, our final few minutes on the interview this morning. I'm talking with Zakhele Madela, Executive Director of the South African Energy Forum. We started out the interview by talking about Eskom selling less electricity, but raking in billions in a profit from customers. So let's try and balance this interview and give you the converse of the situation, as Zakhele also pointed out a little earlier on. And that is at the same time that the tariffs have gone up, we also need to take into account that electricity sales have dropped, with the group recording year-on-year declines of 5.7% in local sales and 5.6% in international sales. This then reflects a local decline of 7.6 terawatt hours sold. And of course, this also then means the context is crucial, given that Eskom relies on revenue to sustain its existing operations and continued growth, including the costs of production, staff, capex, debt services, repairs, and maintenance, which of course Zakhele also pointed out earlier on, to try and balance in what he calls a misleading headline. Back to you, Zakhele, and I've tried to just give a little more of a balanced supporting information on this issue. Let's understand the coal mines closing down, which obviously further impacts on Eskom. And yet we're hearing that South Africa is exporting coal to Israel. There seems to be a discrepancy here. How do you read this situation?
No, Julie, thank you so much for summarizing. You put it much better than I did. Let me go slow on this one.
Sure.
So the money for the just energy transition, the green energy, doesn't come without a condition. It comes with a condition that you will decommission your coal power stations. You will not build new ones. So any mine that has been supplying Eskom, at some point, they are going to stop supplying Eskom, because Eskom is going to need less and less coal.
Okay.
But the countries overseas don't get pushed around with that. They have not taken these monies that come with condition. They need that coal. That's why our coal is continuously going to Richards Bay. Japan needs that coal. Israel needs that coal. Germany needs that coal. Germany, that is giving us money that comes with a condition that says, for you to get this money for the renewable energy, it only comes if you decommission and you stop building new coal power stations. A quarter of those trucks in Richards Bay, they are sending coal to Germany and Japan. The person who gives us money to shut down our coal power station is buying our coal.
So why are we not questioning this current play, the situation of this current play? Why are they paying us to shut down our coal mines, and yet...
Because you've got a business head of state who sits with the private investors. They speak the language of investing, not to govern the country. And the investors are there for one reason. I need to get a contract for my company. I need to get my investment accepted so that I can bank money for my shareholders. So when you have a head of state that is driven by investment, this is what you get. We have a head of state that says, yes, I agree to the investment, but let me first sort out my house. And I'm going to go to the next point that you wanted to ask. How do you sort out your house? If you've got 23 ferrochrome smelters, they're sitting with Eskom and saying to Eskom, please sell the electricity for us for less than 92 cents a kilowatt hour. Eskom says, no, it's the best I can do. There is no electricity for that amount. All electricity sales from the private players, they are over 2 rand a kilowatt hour. These guys are begging Eskom to sell to them for less than 92 cents, and Eskom is accommodating them. Secondly, you have, just to put it in context, those declining sales that you were talking about, you talk about 5% and 5.6% international. Eskom total fleet is about 50,000 megawatts. So that's equal to 2,500 megawatts cumulative. Cumulatively, Eskom has lost the market sales of twice the size of Medupi, or an equivalent of Medupi and Kusile. It's sitting in the system, it's idling. Nobody wants to buy it, even though it is cheap, because it comes from coal. The contract has been signed for the liquid that we have with the so-called green agenda, expensive contracts that are not regulated by NESA, that are between friends. Eskom has to come and plug in the gap when they are unable to supply. You have to ask yourself, how is it that these people, they say their electricity is 60 cents a kilowatt? That's what they tell you in public, that the renewable energy is selling for average 60 cents a kilowatt hour. You get that, Julie? Sure. So when they say that, why are they not going to the smelters that are asking Minister Ramakgopa to at least go below 92 cents a kilowatt? If there's electricity that is available for 60 cents a kilowatt hour, why are they not giving it to those smelters in Mozal? Because Mozal wants to pay Eskom around 80 cents a kilowatt hour. So if there's electricity for 60 cents a kilowatt, why are they not? It's because it has never been a reliable electricity. There's never been the electricity that you could run your industry on. But because the public is not educated, they keep pumped up by this so-called cheap energy. There is no cheap energy. The provider of cheap energy is Eskom, and the evidence is there that Mozal, until Eskom comes down, Mozal is going to have to close down. The smelters are only going to come back because they are negotiating with Eskom. No one else, because there is no one else that can supply reliable power over 24/7, 365. That is cheap than Eskom.
Okay, Zakhele, let's wrap up. I'm meant to be wrapping up at 10 o'clock, but a very important question, one or two to ask you. And I think we do need to round off the interview with people getting an understanding of Eskom's role in the country supplying power. Why has the power supply, or why has there been less demand for electricity? Does this go back a couple of months ago and a couple of years ago, when we were reeling from all of the energy shortages in the country, and which forced people then to seek alternative avenues to buy their power from? Is that the reason? Because I must say, and thank God for that, the electricity supply has been pretty reliable over the past while. The area I live in, from time to time or on a very regular basis, our power goes down simply because we have a lot of issues around cable theft. So that's not a problem. It's not an Eskom problem. It's a criminality issue. And I think other suburbs have similar issues as well. So where and why is the demand for electricity dropping? Is that good as far as the greater community is concerned, or is that not good news for the community and Eskom itself?
It's news for all of us, community, Eskom, and everybody. For a big company like Eskom to sit with electricity that is equal to combined Medupi and Kusile around 7,000 megawatts, because you've got aluminum smelter South 32 in Richards Bay. They continue talking to Eskom to say, let's resolve this cheap electricity that can only be provided by you, because if we will not get it, we'll go the route of Mozambique and shut down the smelter, and then you lose job.
Sure.
Now, to answer the question, what has really dropped the sales is the industries are closing down. The motor industries are closing down. Everything is imported. You've got 3 refineries that have closed down. You've got all of them. So basically, you're losing the demand for reliable electricity, and somebody is taking advantage of this thing that is only available for a few hours and saying that's the reason why Eskom is losing. Eskom is losing the market because the industry is closing down. That's a fact.
And that's a huge impact on us as a country, because it means our unemployment rates are going through the roof.
Exactly. Mozal, just to give you quickly, Mozal can only come back if Eskom comes to the party.
Sure.
South 32 in Richards Bay will only not close if Eskom now they agree to a basic minimum price. ArcelorMittal will come back if we sort out this thing. There's so many industries that have shut down and they can only be supplied by Eskom because these others, they only supply for a few hours. The industry needs electricity over the whole day and 365 days a year. And that can only be supplied by Eskom, cheap, reliable, that you can count on, that you can run your industries. And there's only one company at the moment that can do that, is Eskom. And lastly, the CEO of Eskom has come out and said, Dan Marukane, what the president did overruling his own sitting minister about unbundling of Eskom is not sustainable for Eskom. This is a man that stopped load shedding, Dan Marukane. He says, President, what you said overruling your own minister is impossible here, where you mandated me to provide reliable electricity for South Africans. It's going to collapse this house. It's going to collapse Eskom. I will not be able to continue Eskom if I do what you did overruling your own sitting minister.
So let's wrap up and go right down to grassroots level, Zakhele. What is the important message you want to leave with the communities, you know, the townships, the informal settlements, the suburbs? What is, you know, can you leave us perhaps with a message of confidence regarding our future power supply and cost of power supply in South Africa?
Thank you so much for that. And I'm very happy with that question. What the communities need to do, they need to go to the Eskom offices. Eskom is represented in districts, is represented in local municipalities. They must ignore the lies that are peddled in the media. They must rely on Eskom information desk or Eskom social media, because that's where the facts come from. They must ignore all of this, but they must empower themselves by going to the Eskom offices and inquire and inquire. Eskom has got a very nice formula for them. I will give you cheapest electricity, but if you make an effort to pay in some way. So the public is not educated, and I want to leave this message for them. We are the ones who own Eskom. It's your Eskom. It's the same Eskom that provides bursaries for your children. It's the very same Eskom that can only give you electricity wherever you are with the Department of Electricity and Energy. Make an effort to thoroughly understand them. Don't fall for the lies of the private players, because they're taking advantage of you not knowing, but you are capacitated. Eskom is at an every district, at an every local municipality, and it's got representative in wards, in some of the wards in South Africa. So make an effort to go to the speaker of your local municipality, go to the electrical department, inquire. There's even a toll-free number for Eskom for you to ask. So please empower yourself, and Eskom will give you all the answers that you need.
Zakhele Madela, Executive Director of the South African Energy Forum. Thank you indeed for your input on this important discussion. Of course, you have said that the headline, Eskom selling less electricity, but raking in millions in profits from customers, is very misleading. We've tried to give you as balanced an interview as we possibly can. We have given you some figures, some information from the Eskom point of view, which also suggests that repairs and maintenance of the group's aging grid also exceeded the budget for the period by 7%, bringing the total to 23.5 billion. It expects the budget to be exceeded by 13.3% by the end of the full year. Making its revenue issues worse is the accumulation of municipal debt, which of course Zakhele has hinted to as well, saying that everybody needs to pay their accounts, which is now at a staggering 120 billion and is expected to reach 116 billion by the end of the financial year. So there we have it. If this is not addressed, this could hit over 358 billion rands by the year 2031. And I have no doubt, Zakhele, that you and I are going to have many more discussions on this issue. You go well, God bless, and thank you indeed for your input.
Thank you. Next interview quickly. Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye. It's 10 after 10 exactly. Here's Julie Ali signing off. Remember, I was standing in for Salailo Makwaderi. I'll be back with you on Tuesday morning at 11 o'clock on the mid-morning show. Till then, have a great week. Take it easy on the roads. As always, Assalamu alaikum and Khuda Hafiz.